we've talked about the breach, and we've talked about some of the things that happen after it in there. But the trick is, and this is something that is absolutely incredible, you have to have a plan. And we all know you have to have a plan to deal with a cybersecurity incident. We see it all the time where people, they have never tested their plan. They don't really have a plan to handle it. And sometimes that's because they just don't know what it looks like. And so one of the things in terms of action, we've been lucky enough to get Rahim Charania? Charania, yep, got that right. And he's the Director of Cybersecurity Strategy and Design with the Government of Canada. Now, if there's any complex institution you want to see, it's government. So the plans are big. You've paid for this. This is your tax dollars in action. And here's the cool thing. You can download these, you can use them, and you can adapt them. And I've talked to the department there, and they'll say freely, you may not want to use everything, but you can adapt what you see there. So welcome, and I'm going to invite Rahim up, and he's going to walk through that plan. You're going to go from here. This is your clicker right there. If that's you need.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Nothing like following up a presentation like Keith's by bringing on a public servant to talk about policy. So here it goes. Good afternoon, everyone. And again, thanks for the invitation. It's both an honor and a privilege to be speaking to you today from this amazing venue, the Aga Khan Museum and the Ismaili Center. As mentioned, my name is Rahim Charania, and I'm a director with Cybersecurity in the Chief Information Officer's Office for the Treasury Board of Canada for the Government of Canada. I'd also like to pass on regrets from Shirley Ivan, who is the Chief Information Security Technology Officer, who was supposed to be presenting today, but got called away to other meetings. So you're kind of stuck with a double header of Charanias, because I'm presenting right now, and followed by me is the whiz kid, Shiza Charania, who I'm sure will blow away this presentation as well. So my plan today is to provide you with a brief overview of the Government of Canada's Cybersecurity Event Management Plan, which I'll refer to as the GCC-SEMP throughout the presentation. And let's not kid anybody, it's government, it's TBS, Treasury Board Secretariat of Canada, so there's going to be lots of acronyms in this presentation. By the end of the talk, I'm hoping that I'll leave you with a better understanding of the approaches that were taken to develop the GCC-SEMP and the escalation processes, as well as how we respond to cyber incidents and events in the Government of Canada. Okay. Cybersecurity events related to the Government of Canada's information systems can have a significant impact on the delivery of the government's programs, services to Canadians, and consequently confidence in the government. Government security and the continuity of GC programs and services rely upon the ability of departments and agencies, as well as government as a whole, to manage cybersecurity events. The ability to respond to cybersecurity events in a consistent, coordinated, and timely manner across the GC is essential to ensure the security and resilience of GC programs and service delivery. As we heard earlier, we talked a little bit about the NIST framework. The GC has established its cybersecurity framework based on NIST. This framework offers a set of guidelines and best practices to help organizations build and improve their cybersecurity posture. This will ensure that the Government of Canada and departmental information, applications, systems, and networks are secure, reliable, and trusted, with a focus on the 5 key cybersecurity pillars: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. For the identify pillar, we want to make sure that we identify and manage security risks. This starts with ensuring that the cybersecurity governance and management policies and processes are established with clear rules and responsibilities. This includes the role of the designated official for cybersecurity, which is a very specific rule that comes out of the Policy on Service and Digital, and they're providing leadership and support to the CIO and the CSO, Chief Security Officer, within their organization. Other factors include understanding the business context and stakeholder needs, as well as establishing a risk management framework. Managing supply chain risks is also very important, and ensuring that we have robust contract clauses outlined for third-party suppliers. For the protect pillar, it is important to implement measures to reduce security risks. We need to ensure that systems and applications are designed and deployed securely. This includes performing activities like threat modeling and prioritizing cost-effective measures to reduce cybersecurity vulnerabilities and threats to protect that information that we're entrusted with. And also thinking about the user as being the central piece and making sure that we have security awareness training available for the users within our organizations. In terms of the detect pillar, we need to detect and understand cyber events. We strongly recommend within our organizations in the GC, and this is also available to the public, is to leverage and take advantage of cybersecurity defense services that are available from the Cyber Center, things like host-based sensors and cloud-based sensors. And finally, the last pillars focus on responding and recovering from cybersecurity events and incidents. We need to prepare to respond to and recover from successful attacks. It's important to establish an incident management plan with clearly defined actions, roles, responsibilities to ensure that cybersecurity incidents are contained, eradicated, and recovered from a timely manner in alignment with the GC Cybersecurity Event Management Plan, the GCCSEMP. Touching on the policy piece here right now, the policy on government security provides direction to protect government programs and services from threat and compromise. It was last renewed in 2019. Security activities including governance, planning, monitoring and reporting, transformation, as well as strategies and implementations related to the security controls established in further detail in the Directive on Security Management, which is one of the policy instruments under the Policy on Government Security. It includes 8 security controls, including specifically the IT security control. The operationalization of these controls are outlined in the Policy on Service and Digital. Under the PSD, the GC has adopted a framework that provides a set of guidelines and best practices to help organizations build and improve their cybersecurity posture. This Policy on Service and Digital and supporting instruments serve as an integrated set of rules that articulate how Government of Canada and organizations manage service delivery, information, and data, and cybersecurity in a digital age. Under the Directive on Service and Digital, departments are responsible for ensuring the cybersecurity requirements and appropriate risk-based measures are applied continuously in an identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover approach. So tying together back the NIST framework that we talked about earlier. The GCCSEMP provides an operational framework for management of cybersecurity events, including cyber threats, vulnerabilities, and security incidents that impact or threaten to impact the GC's ability to deliver programs and services to Canadians. Key terms that will follow industry standards when it comes to definitions include compromise, cybercrime, cybersecurity events, cybersecurity incidents, cyber threats, and privacy breaches. All things that we heard about all morning today. Our rule of thumb is that the cybersecurity incident is a cybersecurity event, but not every cybersecurity event is a cybersecurity incident, pardon me. So taking into consideration the previously mentioned policy requirements, lessons learned from a number of cyber events and incidents, and an ever-evolving threat landscape, the GCCSEMP aims to enhance situational awareness, to inform decision-making, improve sharing of information both publicly and privately. For example, during the Log4j event, we were coordinating with vendors and the Cyber Center to make sure that we all had real-time information. And this is all in support of a GC-wide cybersecurity risk assessment and being able to respond to ongoing threats. The cybersecurity event management process identifies stakeholders, defines cybersecurity event response levels, and describes escalation triggers. There are several phases to this process. The initial phase, which is the preparation phase, involves great readiness, general readiness to ensure that the GC is ready to respond to the broad range of cybersecurity events. The second phase, detection and assessment, involves a discovery of potential cybersecurity events, including confirmed cybersecurity incidents through the monitoring of various information sources, be it hardware or software, and submission of reports by affected departments. The third phase, mitigation and recovery, consists of all response actions required to minimize impacts on confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and leads to the restoration of normal operations. The final phase, post-event activity is vital for continuous improvement of the overall process and consists of post-event analysis, preparing and reviewing lessons learned, and recommending changes to processes or procedures. From the time that an event is detected to the conclusion of post-event activities, reporting and communication between stakeholders throughout the event must occur, enabling a whole-of-government situational awareness. Entrenching these activities into the life cycle of cybersecurity event management is imperative to ensure that mitigation advice and status updates are shared with both affected and non-affected parties in a timely fashion, enabling situational awareness and supporting informed decision-making. The determination of the appropriate GC response level for a cyber event is performed jointly between Treasury Board Secretariat and the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, with support from the affected departments where appropriate. The assessment approach differs depending on whether the event is an incident or whether it's related to a cyber threat or vulnerability. Again, going back to the definitions and making sure that we are distinct in how we respond. The response level is determined by using an injury assessment chart for the GC when it comes to an incident or potential for injury. While the outputs of this assessment guides determination of an appropriate response level, additional factors such as business impact, exploitation of exposure of the vulnerable systems, be it public-facing or internally facing, and geopolitical factors may be considered to establish an appropriate response. So we have 4 levels in our GC SAMP response process. Level 1 is typically at the departmental level, if impacting a single department. Level 2 is usually categorized where there's an impact to multiple departments with a medium impact. Level 3, it may be impacting multiple departments, which are public-facing, and has a high level of impact. Level 4 is part of the GC SAMP, but this is where it's impacting the GC as a whole and its ability to deliver on mission-critical services to Canadians. At this point, we're enacting the Federal Emergency Response Plan, also known as FERP, and public safety is fully engaged in this activity. And it's important to note that the GC response levels can change depending on how the event is unfolding and depending on certain criteria. Within the government, cybersecurity is a shared responsibility across multiple organizations. The government has both external and internal roles in the context of cybersecurity. From a national perspective, the GC is expected to provide leadership to other levels of government, be it provincial or territorial, critical infrastructure, as well as small and medium enterprises and Canadians at large. Public safety is the government lead for national cybersecurity. In 2019, they published the National Cybersecurity Strategy, which puts in place a framework to guide the Government of Canada in helping to protect citizens and businesses from cyber threats and take advantage of the economic opportunities afforded by digital technology. Its predecessor to the strategy was the Canadian Cybersecurity Strategy, which was originally published in 2010. And in this strategy, it was built on 3 pillars: securing government systems, partnering to secure vital cybersecurity systems outside the federal government, and helping Canadians to be secure online. These pillars continue through the existing strategy, and public safety is currently looking at updating the strategy right now and will maintain these pillars as part of their strategy. Communication security establishment, their role is to enhance its capacity to detect and discover threats, provide foreign intelligence and cybersecurity services, and respond to cyber threats and attacks against the government networks and information technology systems. In 2019 is when the Cyber Center was born. TBS's role is to support and strengthen cyber incident management capabilities across government through the use of policies, standards, and assessment tools. The ability for the Cyber Center and TBS to meet their responsibilities has been easier through centralization, in particular through the establishment of Shared Services Canada as the agency responsible for consolidating IT systems. Specifically, they are responsible for data centers, networks, and email. This centralization approach strengthens the GC security posture with robust systems and tools in place to monitor, detect, and investigate potential threats and actively address and neutralize them. And we are constantly evolving our security measures and improving our network capabilities. Each department also has a role to play when it comes to cybersecurity. But when a cybersecurity event happens, protocols do exist to ensure a coordinated Government of Canada response is in place. Reporting was one of the key elements we realized required clarification and updating in the refresh that we're currently undergoing for the GCC SIMP. Some of the key takeaways that we have is it's important that from a GC perspective, we need to report all cybersecurity incidents to the Cyber Center. Secondly, reporting all incidents to law enforcement for their assessment and determination of potential criminal activity. It's important to know that it's them who will make that determination and not the department. It's also really important that you work with your privacy teams during a cyber incident so that they can determine if a privacy breach has occurred. Again, themes that we've been hearing about all morning today. The same also applies to the private sector, in which case the Cyber Center is always ready and available to hear about cyber events and incidents that are occurring within your businesses or your organizations so that they can provide support where needed within their mandate. Law enforcement should also be notified so they can determine if there is criminal negligence happening and if there is a crime that's happened. And lastly, the Office of the Privacy Commissioner. It's a requirement for some businesses to report to them under the PIPEDA Act. We heard it earlier today, and I'm going to repeat it again. It's all about practice, practice, practice. Like anything, you need to practice your plan. With targeted attacks and cyber incidents against the GC continuing to increase, both in frequency and complexity, it's imperative that the GC continues to improve its strategic and tactical cybersecurity response capabilities. We develop the plan, we update the plan, and review it on a regular basis, and we need to make sure that we're also updating and practicing our plan as well. On Guard Cyber Leadership is a series directed at the ADM, DG, and CIO level within the GC to simulate tabletop exercises targeted to test how the GC responds to a cybersecurity event. These exercises are intended to assess the effectiveness of the GCC SIMP, which is owned by TBS and jointly administered by the Cyber Center. On February 23rd, 2022 of this year was the last time we held a simulation. Our focus was on testing the GC's strategic and coordinated response to a cybersecurity event, testing the effectiveness of the GCC SIMP in facilitating response activities, and testing the GC's ability to coordinate with cloud service providers and managed service providers. We actually brought in organizations like Microsoft, who is widely used in the GC, to be a part of the GCC SIMP tabletop exercise. The exercise was specifically created to exercise the following areas and see how the GC responded to decision-making, so we could identify any gaps and challenges in the decision-making process, test out roles and responsibilities to enhance the understanding of those roles and responsibilities, and most importantly, information sharing. We want to make sure that we can validate that the stakeholders are able to communicate and know who to communicate with. Over the last 2 years, we've been exposed to an unprecedented number of zero-day vulnerabilities, supply chain compromises, and major cyber incidents affecting the GC. There's been no shortage of opportunities for us to exercise our plan, both in simulations and in real life. And then from that, we've developed a number of lessons learned. We're now in the final stages of completing our refresh of the GCC SIMP and are tracking to publish it later this fall. And our next GCC SIMP On Guard event is scheduled to happen this spring. And that takes us to the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Boy, that was good. There was a lot of detail in there, a lot of information. And I think we can take the idea that the model of this, the structure of this, regardless of the plan, is there. So there's no excuse for people saying we don't have a structure for a plan. You can walk through that and take that into account. That was great.